Costa, and our today's session will be on menstrual health and hygiene. Now, menstrual health and hygiene is a topic that is very close to my heart, and I've been taking regular sessions all throughout last year in various schools in Goa to impart education and break the taboos and myths revolving around menstrual health and hygiene. Well, this year, due to the pandemic situation, it is not possible for me to come and talk to you all personally. So I thought I would impart whatever I can to you all through this online video. To start off with our session, I would like to cover up this topic by answering 5 very simple questions, that is, why, when, what, who, and how. Okay? Now, coming to why. Why is it so important for us to know about menstrual health and menstrual hygiene in today's world? Now, going through statistics, 52% of the female population is in the reproductive age. That means they are in the menstruating phase. So, it is very important for the females to know what is going on in their body and to get the correct information so that they can live a healthy and productive life. Okay? Now, in today's society, when we talk about menstruation, when we talk about menstrual health, it is looked down upon with a stamp of shame, embarrassment, and it's more like a taboo. Taboo as in it is something that we are not supposed to be speaking about. But menstrual health is such an important thing because if a female was not menstruating, there would be no sustenance of life. That is, human life would have come to a full stop. Because menstruation is one of the most important reasons why human life can procreate and move further on and grow. Okay? Secondly, the lack of knowledge about menstrual health and hygiene can create a lot of problems to young girls now and also later in life, as they do not know the correct information and hence they are dependent on certain myths, things that are told to them by their friends, the random searches they make on the internet, which can sometimes give you the wrong information or can mislead you. Okay, so that's it about why we need to know about menstrual health and hygiene. Okay, now coming to what. Now, what exactly is this menstruation that we're talking about? Menstruation is nothing but the blood that comes out of the female's vagina, say for 3 to 7 days in a month, and is repeated or it comes again month after month. Okay, so I know this menses, menstruation, vagina, maybe words that you are not very well versed with, but don't worry, we'll come to that also in detail as we proceed with the session. Okay, to make it as simple as possible, menstruation is nothing but the blood that comes out from the female's vagina once she has hit puberty, and it comes for like 3 to 7 days on an average, and this is a monthly affair. So it is like a cycle which is repeated every month. Okay, ideally. Now talking about menses. Menses is nothing but the blood that comes out. It is known by different names. Some people call it periods, some call it chumps, monthly, MC, menses, okay, and in more vernacular terms also, sometimes they say birthday, sometimes they say date, okay. This is nothing but all referring to the same thing, that is the blood that comes out during menstruation, which is menses. Now, to understand about menstruation, menses, it would be better if we jump into the female reproductive system. Now, to understand what is this menstruation, what is this menses, from where the blood comes out, why the blood comes out, for that it would be ideal if we know first what exactly makes up the female reproductive system, what are the various parts of it, and why does the female actually menstruate. Okay, now coming to the female reproductive system. As you can see, I've done a small schematic in the most simple way possible for you to understand what exactly comprises the female reproductive system and the functions and parts of the same. Okay, so as you all know, the female ovum, or the eggs rather, are present in the part that we call the ovaries. Okay, there are 2 of them. Okay, on the right side, on the left side. So these are the ovaries. Okay, Now, the eggs or the ovum that are there in a female are present in the immature form since birth in the ovaries, okay? So that they are present in the ovaries. So this is the ovary which houses all the ovum or the eggs of the female, okay? Now the next important part to know is the uterus. The uterus is this structure and it is nothing but it is the house in which the baby grows when the egg is fertilized by a sperm, or in other words, the female is pregnant. This house is usually empty and it awaits the day when the baby will come and it will protect it over here. So this is the uterus. And then this opening to the uterus is known as cervix. Okay, and then the passage, okay, the passage to the house. Okay, let's consider the uterus as a house so it is easier to understand. So the passage leading to the house, or rather the door to the house, okay, is nothing but the vagina that we talked about before. The vagina is also known as the birth canal. Which means, as the name suggests, when the female is giving birth, the baby will come out through the birth canal or the vagina. Okay, so to recap, the female reproductive system consists of two ovaries. Okay, these tubes here are known as the fallopian tubes. Okay, we won't remember the word for now, but just for your knowledge, it is known as the fallopian tubes. Okay, then this house-like protective structure is known as the uterus. The opening of the uterus is known as the cervix, and this passage to the house is known as the vagina or the birth canal. Okay, now to understand what exactly is the function of this reproductive system. Now, as I've told you before, the ovum or the eggs produced in the females are there from birth in an immature state in the ovaries, okay? Now, anything that is small will grow. Anything that is immature will mature. In the same way, these immature ovaries will start maturing, okay? So, when the girl hits puberty, puberty is the phase when a girl is transitioning or changing into a young adult, okay? That's when she starts menstruating. What will happen is this ovum, which is in the immature form, will start maturing, okay? So one ovum will mature at a time. So say the ovum is a small thing, okay? It will start growing, right? So when the ovum is fully grown and mature, not going into all the technical terms, but when the ovum is fully grown and mature, it will rupture. So it will come to the end of the ovary over here. The same thing, this mature ovum, which is all this process is happening inside the ovary, right? So it will the mature ovum will come here and it will break open. And once it breaks open, the egg or the ova will be released into the fallopian tube. Okay. Now this finger-like projection that you see over here is nothing but it is called a fimbriae. Okay, and the function of it is, suppose, say this is your ovum, this is the ovary. The ovum is inside the ovary, okay, and it is maturing, and these are the fimbriae. So there will come a time when the ovum will mature and burst, hence releasing the ova or the egg. Okay, so once the egg is released, the fimbriae absorb it and take it into the fallopian tube. Okay, this tube over here is nothing but the fallopian tube. Okay, now let's leave our egg over here itself, okay, and we'll go to the uterus. Now, as we said, the uterus can be compared to a house, okay. So, and this house is preparing for a guest to come. Who is the guest? The guest is the baby that will come and stay over here, right? So the main function of the uterus, okay, is that it is a protective house for the baby to come and stay in till it grows and it is ready to come out in the world. So now, suppose someone is coming to your house, okay, a guest is coming to your house. What do? You will make everything comfortable for the guest, right? You will make a nice bed, maybe some nice sofa, cushions. So the guest is comfortable. So you'll keep a bed ready, the sofa ready, okay? That is the comfort of the guest. Also, you will prepare nice food for the guest, right? Maybe some nice samosas, maybe some nice, I don't know, pasta. So in the same way, the uterus does two things before the guest arrives. The first thing is that it will create a comfortable place for the baby to come and sleep in. Okay. So what will happen is the walls of the uterus will be thickened nicely. The walls of the uterus will thicken nicely, so the baby, when it comes in, will be nice and comfortable in it. Now, when we say thickens and becomes comfortable, what exactly is happening over here? Now, when we're talking about comfort, okay, we are saying the uterus is preparing for the baby. Now, as we said, at home, when a guest comes, we keep a nice pillow, bed and all ready, right? And the pillow is filled with cotton or cloth or something nice and spongy so the guest can be comfortable in it. In the same way, this uterus becomes comfortable by getting a nice spongy lining, and this lining is made of blood, glands, and mucus. Okay, so the lining of the uterus is made of blood, glands and uterus, which makes a comfortable area for the baby to come and sleep in. Then we said when the guest comes home, we also prepare nice food for the guest, right? In the same way, the uterus, in anticipation of the baby, will produce nourishment for the same baby, okay? And this nourishment is produced by the glands that are there in the uterus. And the blood vessels. Okay, so the blood vessels and the glands will produce the nourishment or the food for the baby. So this is the uterus now, which is fully prepped and ready for the baby to come and stay there and have a nice comfortable 9-month stay before it is fully matured and grown up and ready to face the world. Okay, so the same thing now what I told you, just to recap it again. That's the ovum inside the ovary, right? And here are the fimbriae. So when the ovum is released, the fimbriae will absorb the egg, okay, and this egg will travel up the fallopian tube and enter. My hand is a schematic for the fallopian tube here. So the egg gets ruptured, enters the fallopian tube, and it travels through the fallopian tube. Now what is happening to this egg is that there is no fertilization taking place, okay? Now fertilization is nothing but the egg that is released into the fallopian tube, it combines with a male sperm if it is present in the fallopian tube at that time, and it forms a zygote or a baby in short. So when there is no sperm, what happens is this ova or egg cannot form into a baby, right? So this ovum then travels into the uterus, but it is not fertilized, so it cannot form into a baby. So let's think of it in this way, okay? Now you was anticipating some guests to come at your place, and you have you have made a nice bedding, you made nice food for the guests, but the guest for some reason calls up and says, sorry, I cannot come this time. So what will you do? So now what will happen is you cannot keep the food there in your house because that was extra made for the guests. So is the bedding. So you will take all the bedding and food and put it away since the guest is not coming, right? Now the same thing happens in the uterus. So the uterus had prepared itself with all the nourishment and comforting lining for the baby, okay? But now the baby is not coming. So now what will happen is the unfertilized ova will come into the uterus. But since there's no baby, the female now has no use of all this lining because there's no baby to protect. It was formed to protect and nourish the baby that it was waiting for. But since now that there's no baby coming, the uterus will start throwing all these extra things out. Now these things that we're talking about is nothing but the blood, the mucus and the glands. We said earlier that the bedding that is formed by the uterus is made by blood, mucus and glands, right? That is the bedding of the uterus. So since there is no baby, what will start happening is this lining will start breaking. Slowly and slowly it will start breaking. And once it breaks, obviously it needs to be thrown out, right? And we said that the cervix is the opening of the uterus. So anything that needs to be thrown out will be thrown out through the opening, right? So all this blood will flow downwards through the cervix and it will enter the vagina. And eventually it will be thrown out of the body. As you know, the vagina is the opening of the female reproductive system outside the female's body. So all this unnecessary blood, glands and mucus that is there along with the unfertilized ova will be thrown out of the female body through the vagina, and this blood that comes out is nothing but what we call menses or periods in other words. So menses are nothing but the unutilized lining that was made by the uterus in anticipation of a baby to protect and nourish it. Now that it is not being used, it is being expelled or thrown out from the body. So now that we know why and what exactly is menstruation, let's go into when. Now, when do females start menstruating? So what happens, as I explained earlier, the ova are there in the female's body right from birth, in the ovaries, right? Now this ova will take time to mature till the female reaches puberty. Now this pubertal age is different for everyone. Every female has their own rate of maturing. It can vary any time from the age of 8 years to say 15 to 16 years, okay? So the first time that the female actually experiences menstruation or periods, like we said before, is known as menarche. Okay, let me repeat. The first time that a young female experiences her menses or menstruation is known as menarche. In India, on an average, 12 years is known to be when a female actually starts menstruating. But this really depends on the female. It can be any time from 8 years or even before that to right up to 15 to 16, maybe even 18 years. So there's nothing normal or abnormal about it. Every female body is different. Hence, the age of menarche is also different for each and every female. We know menstruation is a process that repeats every month. Okay, it comes once every month for say 3 to 7 days and it repeats. Now when you're saying it repeats every month, will it go on for life? No. A time will come when the eggs, the immature eggs that are present in the female's ovaries will get exhausted. In simple words, it will get over. So once those eggs get over, the female will stop menstruating. And this stage at which the female stops menstruating is known as menopause. Okay, again, menopause doesn't have a fixed age, anywhere from your late 40s to say your early 50s or mid 50s. Okay, say 40 to 50 is usually the average age that is taken for menopause. After a female attains menopause, there will be no menstruation. There will be ceasing of menstruation, which also means that there will be no eggs. So in turn, when there are no eggs, there is nothing to get fertilized. Hence, there will be no pregnancy. So after attaining menopause, the female cannot make a baby or the female cannot get pregnant. Okay, so now let's talk about the menstrual cycle. Okay, when? Now, as I explained earlier, we have the shedding of the uterus when the egg is not fertilized, and this shedding comes out as period blood or menses from the vagina. This bleeding that is present will be there for say 3 to 7 days. Again, each female body is unique, and hence the number of days of bleeding is also unique to that female's body. So there is no normal or abnormal number of days. For some people, 1 day menstruating is normal. For some people, 7 days menstruating is normal. Okay, that entirely depends on your body. So once all the lining of the uterus is shed out, the full process will start over again. Okay, so again, in the ovary, another ovum will mature. After maturing, the ovum will burst open, releasing an ova into the fallopian tube. Again, the fallopian tube will absorb the ovum will travel. In case the ovum doesn't get fertilized, again it will enter the uterus. Beside the uterus, again will start its preparation for the baby to come. All the glandular structures, the cushion of blood will be made again. And again, when there is no baby that is requiring all this nourishment, it will start shedding and will come off again in the form of period blood. Okay, and this full process from one menstrual period to another menstrual period is nothing but the menstrual cycle. Okay, now this again on an average takes 28 days to 1 month, but as I said earlier, each female's body is unique, and hence the number of days for one menstrual cycle is also unique to that female. So it can take anywhere from 24 to say 35 days for one menstrual cycle. So that's it with why, what and when about the menstrual cycle. Now that we know about why, what and when, let's come to who. So who should be talking about menstrual health and hygiene? If you ask me, I would say everybody. Everyone should be talking about menstrual health and hygiene because it is so very important for every individual, whether male or female, to know what exactly is menstrual health and hygiene, and to realize that it is not a topic of shame or taboo, but instead it is a topic of celebration, because menstruation is one of the main reasons why life goes ahead, why we can have babies, and why the human race actually exists. In other words, females are nothing but superheroes who can take the world forward. Now, when I had this session in schools, many students came up with certain taboos related to menstruation. There are a few that I found very much in common, and I would like to burst those myths quickly with you. The first one, during menstruation, the female becomes unclean, she's unholy, and hence she shouldn't be, praying, she shouldn't be going near God, she shouldn't be going in areas of worship. She should be secluded and kept alone in a separate room at home. Something very common, I'm sure you have also heard about it. Now let me tell you how this actually came into existence. I've done a little bit of reading on this. So now when we go back to the olden times, as we know, the females used to get married at a very young age, say of even 12 and 13. Okay, at that time, the female body was too weak to handle all the responsibilities of the house. So, the days of menstruation for the female were taken as an opportunity to give the poor young girl rest. So usually when a female gets married in a house, she's expected to get up early in the morning, and pray. So what used to happen is during menstruation, the female used to be allowed to take rest, and hence she was kept away from areas of worship and from praying. So basically, the female was not allowed to pray, not because she is unholy or unpure, but just to give the poor female some rest, which over the years got misinterpreted. Today, people consider the female to be very unholy and unworthy of worship during her periods, which in fact is not true. Now, coming to the second common myth, that a female shouldn't be touching pickles or any cooked foods, or not even cooking food during her periods, because she will spoil the food. Now, the reason, or rather the explanation behind this myth is that, one, for the same thing, that the female was married off very early and she had to cook for a family. So during her menstrual period, she was given a break to rest and relax her body, and hence the cooking responsibility was taken over from her by someone else of the household, hence giving her some rest. Now, coming to pickles and spoiling of other preserved things,